Coming up on Mountain News this morning, state officials expect a high turnout today for the beginning of in-person early voting. And as folks across the country vote, others debate the security of this year's election.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning and happy Halloween. I'm Madison Carmouche. We are inching up to that 5 o'clock mark this Thursday morning. Let's check in with meteorologist Drake Foley for a look at your forecast this morning. Drake, I stepped out and it did not feel like Halloween.
Yeah, it definitely is not feeling like Halloween at all. In fact, we actually might have a record-setting Halloween with temperatures. Looking right now at our hazard cam, it's not too bad. Yesterday, couldn't see for the entirety of the newscast outside because of how foggy it is. But right now, the humidity is not as high. We were sitting at around 96% yesterday, 88% today, but you can still expect some patchy fog on your morning commute. Sitting at around 59 degrees right now, and looking everywhere else in Eastern Kentucky, we still have areas that are in the high 60s to mid 60s, which could spell the end of that 2022 record for Halloween where we were 72 degrees. Today, I'm expecting probably around 80 degrees in some areas, and your out the door forecast shows you go from 65 at 8 a.m. to all the way to 80 by 4, so you can ditch the jacket today. You're not going to need it for this Halloween. Coming up in your first alert forecast, I'm going to talk about how we could have the hottest Halloween on record. Then we'll talk about the rain chances tonight, and I'll have a look at November. Madison?
All right, Drake, thank you. As Election Day inches closer, some folks are preparing for early voting, which starts today in Kentucky. And Sizemar is a professor and political scientist at Eastern Kentucky University. She has some tips for what folks should do before they head to the polls, saying a lot of what will be on the ballot will not be a partisan election, like mayors, amendments, and wet dry votes.
Those are all very impactful on people's day-to-day lives in a way that even the presidential election or the elections for Washington, D.C. are not. And so it's worth spending a little bit of time before going to vote to look at a sample ballot, find out who and what's going to be on your ballot before you go to the polls. And that way you can do the research beforehand before you get there to know who are these people, because there's not going to be that sort of partisan shortcut.
Sizemar says straight ticket voting will not fill out the nonpartisan decisions and our state Senate write-in campaign in that 29th district. A week before the election, Secretary of State Michael Adams reports a 58% increase in absentee ballot requests and a 164% gain in excused in-person absentee voting since the last federal election in 2022. While these numbers indicate high turnout, officials encourage voters to cast their ballots early to help avoid long lines on Election Day.
But we're going to have a mammoth turnout in 2024. And so I don't want to have 2 million people all showing up on one day in line and getting ticked off and losing their tempers. It's going to be a smoother election for everyone if folks can use their early voting days.
Again, early voting starts today. To find polling locations and a sample ballot, you can go to vote.ky.gov. Secretary of State Michael Adams also says he will cast his ballot for this year's general election today. In a release from his office, it says he will vote at 10 this morning in Louisville. We also understand Governor Andy Beshear and First Lady Brittany Beshear will vote today in Frankfort. County clerks across the Commonwealth are preparing for a high voter turnout. Election security is a priority, with members of both political parties involved in ballot handling. Law enforcement say they will increase security at polling sites.
We're going ahead and upping our security just in case. We do expect a high turnout with it being that. So we have plenty of deputies on staff at each of the schools and polling sites, courthouses. We will be prepared for anything that's necessary.
After November 5th, voting machines will undergo a 30-day quarantine to enable a thorough review of votes if necessary. Less people are mailing in ballots while more people are showing up to vote early in person. Certain polling places across the country are seeing longer early voting lines than in 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic dramatically altered the election landscape. But overall turnout is down due to a significant decrease in mail-in voting. George Washington University political director Todd Belt says the situation has changed this time around.
A lot of people were working from home, and it became easier to do the early voting. And also there is some concern that people have on both sides about how their votes are tallied.
States like Georgia and North Carolina, which allow in-person early voting, both set records for in-person turnout on opening day. Wisconsin also saw an increase in early in-person voting from 2020. Associated Press data shows the early vote skews more Republican than in 2020. Nationally, election officials are working to debunk false claims, calling into question the integrity of the election process and the results. It comes as former President Donald Trump and the Republican National Committee sue some Democratic officials claiming problems with the process. In dozens of previous cases, courts have found no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Chris Mann says as early voting expands, poll workers are able to focus on other potential issues.
It does a lot to help them, give them more time to deal with any problems, whether that's a power outage at a polling place, misinformation about voting procedures.
And that misinformation is in part leading to an uptick in threats and abuse to the more than 10,000 local election officials nationwide, the Brennan Center for Justice reports. Homes Incorporated hosted a groundbreaking for its new Letcher County High Ground development yesterday, inviting the community for a celebration of progress. The cottages at Thompson Branch are the latest move in the Housing Can't Wait initiative, building 8 houses near Whitesburg. The Net Zero homes have solar panels to help homeowners offset cost of utilities, which home representatives say will be a game changer for the flood survivors who moved to the community.
Need hope, and they need to see progress being made. So hopefully today was a day that could demonstrate progress and ideas of things to come.
4 of the 8 homes coming to the site are already under construction, with plans for more development and phases to come. Thanks for getting your day started with us here on Mountain News this morning. When we return, airplane fees are getting ready to land as a new rule helps to guarantee a refund for delayed flights.
And I'll have the latest for your trick-or-treat forecast tonight and any chances of rain that we do have. Stay with us.